Hey, buenos dias.
Hi, how are ya? Good to see you. Welcome to Exiles TV. Glad to have you along with us this morning. Kevin, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
So,
We take it one day at a time, Bill.
one day at a time,
One day at a time.
but without Bonnie Franklin. She used to irritate the hell out of me.
You know, that show came back, I think, on either Amazon Prime or Netflix. It was a new, updated, more woke version of One Day at a Time. Nobody watched it. It's already been canceled.
Jeez, how woke do you have to be? They had the anorexic drug addict. Was her name Mackenzie Phillips?
Yeah. She didn't play an anorexic drug addict. She played a perfectly normal teenage girl.
No, she wasn't perfectly normal. She was the problem. Valerie Bertinelli was the perfectly normal teenage girl.
Valerie Bertinelli, I got to tell you, One Day at a Time was the beginning of my love affair with Valerie Bertinelli that lives on to this day. I will even sit through crap on the Food Network with her judging a cookie-making competition just because it's Valerie Bertinelli.
What did America do? Who did America hack off to have Bonnie Franklin and what's her name that played Alice on prime time at the same time?
Linda Lavin.
Linda Lavin in the same years. Jeez.
You know, I can't explain CBS and their sitcom
And B. Arthur.
choices. CBS seemed at one time to be trying to populate their sitcoms with as many non-likable people as possible. I think it started with Archie Bunker. And they said, let's just, people hate Archie, man, but look at the ratings. Now we need a female Archie. We need a woman that's as liberal as Archie is conservative, and you hate her still.
She was such a scenery chewer. And Linda Lavin, who was an awful singer, always had them write parts in where she had to sing. And it's like, oh, please. Nobody wants to hear you sing. You tried a stage act that was the biggest flop in the history of mankind. Nobody wants to hear you sing.
Some of these people got their start on Broadway or on live theater. And the thing about live theater is that you don't need to be able to sing well in live theater. You just need to be able to sing loudly.
Well, and all of them have a range about this wide. And they all begin and end the same way. You know where it's going to go.
But the main requirement for singing on stage is that you can just belt it out live.
Be loud.
And loud. Well, welcome into the show. Here it is, Wednesday. This is the 24th. I've started to lose track of the days. So it's the 24th.
See, that's where it begins.
I did. I was telling Marianne, it's like, is this some kind of dementia settling in?
That's how it starts.
She says, no, it's called not working.
Yeah.
And you get where you just don't,
I
took almost 2 weeks off from doing the TV show and the podcast, and I got where I don't know what the hell day it is.
Going to go to the men's store to get some new clothing, and they're going to want no boxers or briefs, and you're going to say depends.
That's
Depends. Where it starts.
Depends.
That's where it starts. So anyway, F. King Alexander has resigned from OSU, Oregon State University.
You can't fire me, I quit.
You can't fire me, I quit. Now, his resignation becomes effective April 1st. The Oregon board agreed to pay him a one-time payment of $630,000 representing his annual salary, plus $40,000 in relocation costs and payment of his health and medical insurance through March 2022. And they went out of the way to say that it's being paid with private funds. In other words, they don't want taxpayer dollars to go to his buyout because apparently they were going to fire him. If you remember on Monday, we talked about the meeting that they had called for Tuesday, and it was going to be a public meeting, and it was going to talk about how they should discipline F. King Alexander. Well, apparently, it was not going to come off really good for F. King. And here's what they said. When the Board of Trustees adjourned last week, we believed it was possible for President Alexander to repair the broken confidence and trust in his ability to lead OSU. After listening to and hearing important input and reflecting on our own values and experiences, we now know that rebuilding trust is no longer possible.
No longer possible. Trust?
Yeah. The board scheduled to meet this morning, yesterday, as we learned President Alexander no longer had the confidence of the OSU community. This broken trust was expressed not only by the vote of the faculty senate, but by an outpouring of thoughtful statements from students, alumna, and survivors of sexual assault. And so, he resigned rather than being fired. They were obviously, the writing was on the wall that they were going to fire him.
Mm-hmm. So here's what basically, for those of you that may be going, who is F. King Alexander? Because there's always the person who's not up to speed. He was president of LSU at a time during the time in which Les Miles was the head coach of LSU football. There has been an investigation of Title IX violations at LSU associated with Coach Les Miles.
And sexual harassment, improper influence over young female students, things like that.
To put it very bluntly, Les Miles apparently asked for and got the Tiger Athletics to basically be pimping co-eds for him. And there were some that didn't enjoy the attention that they got from Coach Miles, and so they came forward with a complaint. Now, apparently some of the young women were more than willing to participate, and some were, like I said, did not enjoy the attention. The question is, and the what was it? The Hush. What was the last?
Hush Blackwell.
Hush Blackwell report of the goings on at LSU indicated that the president of the university, F. King Alexander, knew what was going on in the athletic department and chose to either turn a blind eye or be complicit with a plan to sweep it under the rug.
And had been advised by Les Miles' immediate supervisor, the athletic director, that this was going on and should be terminated for cause immediately. And in the email, Joe Oliva, who wrote it, said to F. King Alexander, "I know it will not be a popular decision, but we have a great deal of liability exposure here, and it's going to be much worse if we wait for this to come out in a courtroom."
Now, a friend of mine asked me, why would OSU want to fire him for what he did at LSU? Because basically the stink of it. Do you want a university president who is apparently guilty of, even if everything that he's doing at his new gig is completely above board, do you want a president that is apparently guilty of operating below board at his former job?
And he lied about it to them.
And he lied about it to them.
He said that he cooperated fully.
He has no cred.
Yeah.
And so you can't keep him. You can't keep him in position.
Well, and again, he said that he had fully cooperated with the Title IX office and the investigations and evidence, memos, emails, things like that. The original investigator, the local law firm, said no. He ducked us. He didn't cooperate. He only answered 13 questions in written form. He refused to be interviewed in person, which is what they do with all the other people when they're investigating. Mm-hmm. And
just refusing an interview smells bad.
And somebody on the LSU Board of Supervisors, I don't know who, if I did, I would tell you, because I think they did the right thing, called the Board of Supervisors at OSU in Corvallis and said, look, he's not being truthful with you. He did not cooperate. Well, they said, well, that makes it a whole different ball of wax. And so now he is gone, as Les Miles is. We need to take a break, I believe. We'll be back with more on Exiles TV. Please stay with us. Marty, do you have a time?
No one can stop me when I taste the feeling. Nothing could ever bring me down. Nothing could ever bring me down. Taste the feeling.
Hi, I'm Bobby Yarborough with Manda Fine Meats. Here at Manda, we know what the folks of South Louisiana love. They love great flavored smoked sausage, delicious deli meats, and specialty items like boudin and andouille sausage. Manda Fine Meats has been providing these products since 1947. We produce them right here in Baton Rouge, so you know you're always getting the freshest product at your local grocery store. Manda Fine Meats. Taste the fresh local flavor in everything we make. Make it Manda every time.
Desire in your eyes, but you can't keep it in your heart. 'Cause misery loves company. 'Cause misery loves company. Cold and hungry like a dog in the street. I get a raw deal every.
Welcome back to Exiles TV. I'm Bill Profita. He is Kevin Gallagher.
That is the rumor.
So we had another one of these senseless, violent mass shootings. This time in a supermarket. And it occurred to me that it's real hard to take cover in a supermarket. Big, long, open aisles, nothing real heavy that you can
The
get behind.
The best you can hope for is to put as many aisles between you and the source of that gunfire as possible.
A lot of people escaped through the loading dock, but 10 people are dead.
Here's what's, I don't want to say interesting, but notable about this tragedy. Everyone he shot is dead. In a lot of these mass shootings, you have the number of dead and the number of injured. Everyone that, I can't remember the guy's name, and I'm sorry if I try it, I'll probably sound like I'm making fun of Middle Eastern names. But everybody he shot was killed. Every
Ahmad
single
Al-Alawi Alissa.
The media, I've noticed, and I'm gonna get on a left-wing media rant here for a little bit, Bill, if you don't mind. The media is having a tough time. They don't know exactly how to spin this thing. I think that they wanted to spin it as a crazy white gun guy, but then they found out that he wasn't, by most people's definition, a white guy, that he's Middle Eastern. So now it's become a gun control issue. The guy was obviously, his own family is coming forward and saying he was deranged, he was out of his mind, he was paranoid, he thought he was being
Prone to violent outbursts.
Thought he was, thought anti-Islamics were out to get him and following him and tapping his phone and monitoring his Facebook and Instagram, and the guy clearly had mental issues. We supposedly have mechanisms in place to evaluate whether or not you're in the mental health system before you're allowed to buy weapons. But this is, of course, going to become another cry for more gun control.
Well, that's a knee-jerk reaction. It's a non-starter. What bothers me about this is how the DA in that jurisdiction is walking on eggshells to not prejudice their case. The information about him, although everybody clearly saw him being led out of there, bleeding from the leg where he was shot in an exchange of gunfire, and his own family said, "Hey, that's my brother. Hey, that's my son." Now, he was not born in this country, but he has lived here for most of his life. He is Middle Eastern. He is a Muslim. He said that there was a lot of prejudice that was directed at him in his high school days. They have since had some interviews with some of his high school peers, and he was a high school wrestler. And they said, you know what, we never saw that. We're not saying it didn't happen. We just know that when something didn't go his way, he would fly off the handle. That he was physically violent and would rant and would rave. And they said, quite simply, a lot of us thought he was extremely unstable. He did, when he was a high school senior, was found guilty of assaulting a fellow student in class after knocking him to the floor and then climbing on top of him and pummeling him about the head and shoulders, according to the police affidavit. He got up in the classroom, walked over to the victim, and cold-cocked him in the head. Now, he complained that the student had made fun of him and called him racial names weeks earlier.
Weeks earlier. And
Yeah.
he decided after weeks to take action.
Yeah. He was sentenced to probation and community service. It was a misdemeanor assault. Had it been a felony assault, he would not have been able to purchase the gun he used in that shooting.
And the gun was a semi-automatic something?
It was an AR-15 clone. It was a Ruger 6.65, I believe. And it chambers the .223 round.
Yes.
But it's meant to be what Ruger calls a ranch gun. So it's got a very short stock with a pistol grip, and you can get an arm steadier on that pistol. But it's made for ranchers who are out in their trucks or on horseback
Have to deal with nuisance
have
animals.
to deal with a coyote or something like that. That's what it's meant to do. And the load, that .223 round, is pretty damn lethal, particularly at close range, because of its speed. But here's the whole thing. You can't talk about the weapon, because from what is in his background, from what everyone has said about this guy, if he decided that was the day he was going to go kill people, he would have done it with gas,
A shotgun.
or an explosive, or arson.
See, this is, you're absolutely right. In these situations, we want to talk about the weapon because there's an agenda to do that.
The weapon
But
was
the
between his ears.
Exactly what I was going to say. The weapon is the individual. And it doesn't matter what tool they use to do their dirty deeds.
Now, people will say having a rapid fire firearm makes it easier. Yes, it does. But there are plenty of people like this out there amongst us in society who can kill 10 people in a day if they want to with a knife. There are plenty of people that could throw a Molotov cocktail inside that supermarket and then bar the doors with a baseball bat through the handles, and you're going to have a lot of people dead and a lot of people hurt. I don't like seeing firearm violence. It frightens me. But I also realize, look at his picture. The kind of violence that comes out of a guy,
I'm looking at him right now on the TV monitor.
that looks like this and acts like this, he decided he was going to kill somebody that day.
The news says he's 21. He looks more like 41 to me.
But he is 21, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
He's chubby. He's balding. He just looks like a much older man.
He graduated from high school in 2018.
Wow.
But I mean, you sit there and you say, well, we have to try to blame the weapon here. No. You have to blame the murderous intent in that man's head. And as you said earlier today on our podcast, we have inadequate mental health facilities throughout this country to deal with people like this. But, again, the sociology of the situation being what it is, his brother allowed him to use his car to go to his kill zone.
Wow.
His family saw him, as they put, playing with the gun on Sunday, and it made them very uncomfortable, so they took it away from him and then gave it back. His mother talks about how he would fly into these rages and she thought he was unstable and dangerous. But the sociology of it is these folks, immigrants from a Middle Eastern country, are not going to call for mental health services. They just aren't going to do it.
Well, it's not. I don't think that's necessarily a social thing or a racial thing. There's a lot of families that prefer to keep their family problems within the family, and they don't want to talk about them.
Well,
and they certainly don't want to bring in insiders, much less the government.
Well, and again, if they can solve it, that's fine. But the idea of whistling past the graveyard and saying nothing bad's going to
Yes.
happen, I think of, we had this rash of incidents a couple of years ago with people acting up on airplanes and attacking other passengers and devolving into violence. And you always had the parent, somebody who was maybe even on the airplane with him, well, he didn't take his medication and that's what happens. Well, you're there to make sure he takes his damn medication.
Mm-hmm.
But you won't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you won't turn him in to the mental health facility that's treating him and say that he won't take his medication because you're afraid it's going to damage his psyche. So instead, you're rolling the freaking dice every day you take him out in public and you put him on an airplane? You see, I would like to see those people prosecuted. But I don't think we have a mechanism to do that, unfortunately.
Well, it's just sad to me that every time something like this happens, the saddest part about it is almost glazed over. 10 people are dead.
Yeah.
10 families have had their lives profoundly affected. And we just use that number to help drive along whatever the cause is going to be. Now, I've read that the president is going to use this as impetus to take some kind of executive action on gun control. But look, I'm not an expert on the federal government, but I don't think gun control is something the president can do by executive action at all.
No.
I think he's got to have Congress, bring him a bill.
Well, not only that, but I think you're also going to, unless you alter the Second Amendment, which requires a 2/3 vote of Congress and approval by 2/3 of the states, you're really not going to do that. Thing is, I've seen police officers that I find a little disquieting. Mm-hmm. And they're always the guys that are out of the car with the patrol rifle and have 4 additional magazines that each hold 17 rounds for their Glock. And it's like, are you expecting a war? There is something disquieting about high power, a high volume ammunition. But that doesn't mean it's illegal or it should be banned. Just my thoughts.
Well, in our city, I would argue that a police officer or a sheriff's deputy might find him, might never know on what shift he's going to find himself in the middle of the equivalent of a war zone and need lots of reloads.
I'm specifically talking about the
I know what you're
alcohol, tobacco control cops.
Oh, well, yeah.
Walking down 3rd Street.
Yeah.
With AR-15 slung and
yeah.
It's
or
like
constables with 4 reload mags on their belt.
Exactly.
Yep. We need to take another break. Some states may be looking at more gun regulation in the face of things like this. Our own state legislature will be firing up before too long. We've had the governor's budget proposal. We're going to talk about matters before the Louisiana legislature with Franklin Foyle, who's a member of the legislature. He joins us next on Exiles TV.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to greystonecountryclub.com.
From appetizers, pasta dishes, and entrees, La Contea takes pride in preparing all the Italian cuisine we know you love. Enjoy live music every Thursday through Saturday from 6 to 9, happy hour weekdays from 3 to 6, and brunch on Sundays from 11 to 2, as well as dinner portion-sized lunch specials for under $10. Visit our website to view our menu and book a party or meeting in our large banquet room. Once you try La Contea, your Italian dining will change forever.
No one can stop me when I taste the feeling. Nothing could ever bring me down. Nothing could ever bring me down. Taste the feeling.
Hi, I am Dr. Farrell Fruget Jr., and I am a general dentist at Fruget Family Dentistry. I was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I went to Catholic High School, LSU, and LSU School of Dentistry in New Orleans, where I received my DDS degree in 1986. I always have and will continue to be committed to continuing my education, to invest in technology which makes the diagnosis and delivery of dentistry more thorough, more comfortable, and more aesthetically pleasing. In our practice, we are here to serve the patients. We want to improve their quality of life and to develop relationships with our patients. In dentistry, we have a chance to impact lives on a daily basis, not just by doing dentistry, but by getting to know them and being a part of their life. We also believe in giving back to our community. So every year, we give back to the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank, Toys for Tots, and Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center. Please stop by and visit our office. We would love to take care of you and your family.
The selection is deep, and the time to get a used car is right now from the Team Automotive Group. Shop and save on over 125 certified vehicles and choose from more than 700 pre-owned vehicles at any of our team locations. Or log on anytime at teamautouse.com.
Hey, we're back. It is Exiles TV. Bill Profito over there. I'm Kevin Gallagher, back on the set after a couple of weeks convalescence. And joining us right now, I almost said representative, but you are now state senator, Franklin Foyle.
Thanks, Kevin.
Glad to, I keep forgetting that. But we're going to talk a little bit about the legislative session that is coming up. Let me give you a big open-ended one, okay?
Sure.
What do you think, besides budget, which is job one for the legislature, what is going to be the big issue this year in the legislature?
It's a fiscal session, and so there are a lot of people talking about tax reform, and there are going to be some fairly big packages coming forward to change our tax structure. I've been hearing about tax reform for years, since I first got there in the House 13 years ago, but both the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate are both dedicated to try to put together a package this year and get it through to make ourselves more business friendly and more attractive to people to come to our state.
What does a passable, palatable tax reform look like?
Well, one thing is we have tons of exemptions. So our tax rates are high, but you have exemptions to offset that. And so we want to have a simpler tax structure where instead of having all of these exemptions, you'll lower the rates. And so that's one of the things we're looking at. So if you look at Mississippi and Texas, we want our tax structure to be similar to those other states. Now, we're not going to get rid of the income tax, at least not now. I know that other states have that, and that's something that would be attractive, but I don't think we're there yet, quite there yet.
When you talk about tax reform, do you also consider, is it a separate item, to consider where this tax money goes? I believe, and I may be wrong, the DH is way overfunded. I believe the DOTD is way underfunded.
Right.
And is there a way to look at both ends of the spectrum when you start this process, or do you have to pass the tax reform first and then go back and reform the consumers of our tax dollars?
I really think there are two issues, just like what you said in the latter comment. The tax reform addresses how much we tax people, and once again, it's more of an economic development issue. Priorities is what you're talking about, where we take the revenue and spend it. LDH is by far the biggest department.
Yes.
We obviously need LDH, but it's difficult sometimes to rein them in, and we have to keep track of that money. You're right. We don't necessarily want DOTD to have more money, but we want them to have more money to spend on road projects.
Yes.
It would seem to me, though, that those two departments, DOTD and LDH, because they're kind of more or less married to their federal counterparts, because there's so much federal dollars flowing through to those two agencies, does that leave you guys limited wiggle room in what you can do?
Well, LDH even more so. I mean, there's a huge amount of federal dollars that goes into there. It's a match, of course. We put up money and then we get federal dollars. And when we opened up Medicaid to all, that really expanded the budget of that department. So, yes, we can't take the federal dollars away, but we can limit how many state dollars we put in there in the first place.
I think
So long as you match.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I think there is a perception, particularly when it comes to LDH, that we go fishing for a match. Can we raise 10 million so that we can get 10 million, rather than what we really need is 7 million matched by 7 million. And I also think that the perception is LDH is kind of like Les Miles. I am above because I'm the biggest portion of the budget, and everybody loves, who doesn't love free health care, reduced price health care,
Sure.
free rides to the doctor's office? and it garners a lot of votes. I think that they believe that they're the less miles. They are above restrictions, they're above inspections, that they're above remediation.
Well, I'll tell you, really, I was on the Appropriations Committee in the House for 8 years, and so we dealt with all the departments. And really, the attitude of all the departments is, let us control our budgets, and you're the legislature, and we need you to give us money, but just trust us. And there's been a lot of pushback in the legislature over the past few years, and part of that is because we have divided government. This is the first time where the legislature is somewhat independent from the governor, which is the executive branch. And so there is more pushback, and we are giving more scrutiny. But you hit it, or Kevin, you hit it really. The big issue this session is going to be the federal money that's coming in. I mean, there's a ton of money coming from the COVID relief. We're going to have to decide how to appropriate that money, and now I hear there's an infrastructure bill potentially coming behind that. So that's going to be the big issue. There's going to be a lot of money flowing to the state, like Katrina type of money.
If you had to just venture a wild guess, how many more billion is the budget going to grow this year? Because it grows every year, sometimes 1.2. But what are we up to now, like $36 billion?
I think we're looking at another $3 billion from the federal government coming in, but I don't know if our budget will grow that much because we do have a loss of state revenue. I mean, sales tax is down, income taxes are down, but we're certainly going to have, from what I understand, enough money coming from the federal government to not only keep the status quo, but do some new things, including maybe infrastructure projects.
What about, and I'm sorry, Bill, if I...
No, go ahead.
What about fiscal measures to try to offset the damage that's been done to our economy by the COVID response?
Well, I know one thing we need to look at is to shore up our unemployment compensation fund again. I mean, that fund has been drained. Of course, part of that, in my opinion, is poor policy by the federal government to extend these very enhanced benefits for a long period of time. I mean, it got to the point when they passed the first COVID bill, there were a lot of people who made more money staying home than being at work.
Indeed.
And so that incentivizes folks. There's supposed to be a work element required if you get unemployment benefits.
Yes.
But I don't really think, in my judgment, that it's being enforced very well.
Well, I had a conversation with somebody last night. A great many of the people in the original unemployment, which worked out to about 33 grand a year, were frontline food service worker, hospitality workers. And that was more money than they were making on their jobs. And as this person who runs a hospitality business told me, he said, they have to continue to get their unemployment. They have to call you
Right.
and say, do you have any openings? And then that satisfies the requirement. And they never come for the interview because they're still making more money than they, and I understand you need to help people.
Sure.
But I do not see the logic in you've got somebody who lost their job because of COVID, who was making $140,000 a year, and they're getting $227 a week before the federal match.
Right.
And it's different to maintain your $120,000 household on 32 grand. But if you had somebody that was making $21,000 a year, I think it's ridiculous for them to make 32 grand.
Well, and also from what I hear from talking to my friends who have businesses, especially the food industry, they're having a hard time getting workers to come back.
Because of that.
That's right, because you're incentivized, and some people, legitimately may still fear, the COVID. I get that. But with the vaccines becoming more and more available, we're almost at 100% availability in Louisiana now for vaccines. That is an option that people can take to protect themselves.
Well, and then I think we also have to get to the point where, COVID aside, federal assistance aside, our unemployment compensation in this state is ridiculously low.
Yes.
When the max that you can get after paying in through your employer, is $227 a week, and it caps out at 26 weeks, that's ridiculous.
Yes, I agree. You can't live off of it, and that's why we need to reform that. But we certainly need to fill that up. But I'm really excited about the opportunity to take some of this money for infrastructure. As you know, every time I speak with you gentlemen, I want a new Mississippi River Bridge in Baton Rouge, and this may be our opportunity to get enough money to actually get that realistically moving down the road.
I was reading an article with Senator Ward, and this has been a cause he's championed now for several years. But that was going to be a question I was going to ask in the next segment, was what kind of mechanisms can we come up with to make that bridge and an approach to that bridge a reality?
And this is the kind of money that may get it done, because a new bridge with the approach and everything, it's going to be $1 billion. That's what it's up to now. And we were talking the other day I was talking to some of the legislators. There might be as much as $500 million that we could get out of these funds to get that started.
That would be a pretty darn good start. We are talking with Senator Franklin Foyle, a longtime member of the Louisiana legislature, and he's very involved in the budgeting process. We'll continue in a moment on Exiles TV.
Belello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent.
Depend on us for service, for selection, for price.
Get huge Whirlpool savings. Shop now and save on Whirlpool appliances throughout the store. Plus, experience our price match guarantee and ask about special financing.
You can depend on the know-how of people who live appliances every day.
Belello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent with nationwide buying power.
Hello guys, it's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
Hi, I'm Hurricane Betsy Barnes.
And I'm Dr. Kay Siller with the Rocket Right Show.
We are two busy blondes on the go showing off life in Louisiana.
Watch us on Pelican Sports Network.
And Talk 107.3 FM. Check local listings for times.
The first big sale of the year is here. The Dream Garage Spring Event is underway at Team Honda. For the first time ever, get $12.50 customer cash on every new 21 Passport, or get 0% for 60 months on every new 21 Pilot at Louisiana's #1 Honda dealer, Team Honda.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-778-4345. 800-778-4345.
Welcome back to Exiles TV. Kevin Gallagher, Bill Pafita, our guest, Senator Franklin Foyle. We have got a fiscal session of the legislature coming up, and that's where money gets appropriated. You were talking about something that's on everybody's mind, a new Mississippi River Bridge.
Absolutely.
What did you say it was going to be, $2 billion?
Probably $1 billion is what I've heard.
$1 billion?
At least that's what they're saying now.
That sounds cheap.
But there may be a $500 million laying around that could get things started. And I'm oversimplifying that, but tell us about that.
From what I understand, in the relief package that just passed, there's going to be $1 billion sent to Louisiana for infrastructure needs. And we as a legislature have the right to appropriate that wherever we might think it's appropriate. Mm-hmm. And I've been told, realistically, there might be up to $500 million that we could appropriate for a bridge. And then there's an infrastructure bill also in Congress where there'll be more money.
So have you yet been visited by the term social infrastructure?
No.
One of your colleagues, in talking about this money that's coming for infrastructure, says that she intends to write some legislation that would use some of the money to provide for social infrastructure.
What exactly is that?
Social infrastructure, how can I put this delicately? Handing out lots of free stuff to people who vote for me.
Yeah. No, I think a new bridge would help everyone.
I think so too, but I'm telling you, one of your colleagues was on, I believe it was WBRZ, talking about how she wants some of this money for social infrastructure, and they were interviewing her in the wake of the shootings in the Atlanta area. So apparently she thinks that a lot of money will do some good things to combat hate and racism and things like that.
Well, as far as infrastructure dollars, I don't know that would be very appropriate.
That seems pretty fuzzy.
That does. But we have, as you know, lots of needs, and it was one of the nice things about COVID was the traffic was down in Baton Rouge for a little bit, but it's back.
Help me out though with understanding the mechanism to build a bridge. Let's say we can put $500 million towards it. Can you not take the $500 million, get the project underway? It's going to be a multi-year project.
Of course.
Probably take 2, maybe a little longer than 2 to build.
Probably 5.
Yeah. So why can we not? Do we have to have the funding for the whole bridge all at one time, or can we pay as we go?
Not at all. In fact, that's how we do most capital outlay projects. We pay as we go. But with the bridge, it's such a big dollar amount. We've really never gotten off the ground because the most money that's ever been directed to the bridge is $5 or $10 million to do studies. Well, that's helpful because you have to do the studies. But to realistically get it off the ground where they're starting to build it, you're going to have several $100 million available at the beginning. But absolutely, you don't need to get the whole billion until that would be over the life of the project. And the other thing we want to do with the new bridge is do a public-private partnership. We think that that's realistic. You can get a private contractor to come in, they'll have tolling authority, and that can pay a significant amount.
I think tolling is a wonderful idea. I mean, it worked for the Crescent City Connection in New Orleans. Probably went on for a few too many years. But now that's a toll-free bridge, and it's in good shape.
I will tell you, I grew up in the land of toll roads, and it works.
Yes.
Not only does it pay for your actual original investment, but it also pays for improvements along the way. If you need to add another lane for the Kennedy Expressway, well, the tolls are going to generate that in 2.5 years, and you pledge your tolls. But just recently, Karen and I were doing kind of a car tour vacation of Texas, and we got bills for tolls from the North Texas Tolling Authority, which is Dallas-Fort Worth, and then also from the Austin Area Tolling Authority. And it was very reasonable. I think one was for $3.46, and one was for about $7. And I happily paid them because it was good roadway.
Absolutely.
And it made the pleasure a lot more easy. And if you go there a lot, you can buy a toll tag, which gives you a discount. If you and people, I don't want no toll road. Well, then you don't have to drive on it. Nobody's putting a gun to your head.
You're giving them options. You're giving people options. We all want choice, right?
Yeah.
You can take the new bridge that we build, decide to pay a toll, and save a lot of time with traffic. Or you can take the 2 existing bridges, which will not be tolled. We're not going to toll every bridge across the Mississippi. So you have options. And a lot of businesses, especially the trucking industry, they would love that option because time is money for those trucks.
Yeah. I mean, the toll is far less than the fuel they burn.
Commerce if we had a bypass of Baton Rouge for people. I mean, it would help local traffic, and plus, if your destination is Mobile from Houston, you don't need to be stuck in Baton Rouge for 45 minutes to 2 hours longer than you need to be. I mean, it'll add time to your journey. It adds cost to your trip. If we had a bypass, I think the truckers would use it, and they'd happily pay a toll.
Well, this is our real opportunity, and I hope we don't squander it. We had an opportunity after Katrina to get some dollars because people realized you needed to be able to evacuate from areas, and there was a lot of money. We didn't use it to build it to start a new bridge. This is our chance, and this might be the last chance we have, at least in my lifetime.
It's overall, though, in order for it to work to its optimal value, it needs to be a big project, not just the bridge. But you need to start at, say, 415. And then on the other side of the river, it needs to go all the way up and eventually connect up with I-12.
Yes.
Somehow.
Well, and I think Mitch Orso is right. I think the place to put it is very near the Iberville and Ascension Parish line, because you can acquire a lot of right-of-way there real quickly, real cheaply.
You can.
Because most of it is empty land.
No, you can. And you would come across, like you said, right in Louisiana, I'm sorry, Baton Rouge, Nicholson Drive, over there by the Iberville Parish line. You would connect with I-10, and then you could do a connector to I-12. And so you would have not a loop, but a complete southern bypass of Baton Rouge, which is, you don't necessarily need a loop, but you need a bypass.
The arguments against that for years were, but what about all that money? It's going to be driving right through our city. Well, they're driving right through your city without stopping now. They're just taking a hell of a lot longer to get there.
And you'll create economic development along whatever new roadways you have. And
Can
so-
you say racetrack? Probably 5 or 6 of them. Buc-ee's, at least one.
Well, it occurred to me a 415 connector to a new bridge would be money in the pocket for West Baton Rouge Parish for sure.
Well, yeah, and I mean that's the thing. We can't think of only money for East Baton Rouge Parish.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We got to think of the statewide impact.
This is a regional impact.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Anyway, I'm excited.
In my opinion, it's a national impact as well. I mean, look at the effect it will have on interstate commerce along the southern corridor, period.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it will improve everything. It behooves us to get that traffic moving.
Well, being provincial has cost us hundreds of billions of dollars in the past. The most recent example of it is there was a study that was done when Woody Dumas was still mayor. He was in his last term. And the study mentioned moving the Baton Rouge Metro Airport from the border of Baker, which was his home city, and putting it basically right where University Club sits right now. And you could have built a cargo hub airport because you are literally 300 yards from the river and 150 yards from a rail spur. And he convinced people that those people in Baker, they need those jobs at the airport, and so you shouldn't. I mean, hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue because they couldn't give that land away back then. And it was being short-sighted and provincial and cost us money. We can't do that this time.
Yeah, like I said, this is a great opportunity, and I don't plan to squander this and let it get away from us.
State Senator Franklin Foyle represents the Capital District, District 16, just one of the many people we're hoping to hear from during the upcoming legislative session. When do you all begin? It's a short one, so...
Yeah, April 11th, April 12th. It's a Monday, and it's a 60-day fiscal session, so it'll be quick. But there's a lot on the table. Not only the fiscal reform issues we talked about and the federal money, there's a push for a gas tax. You hear about that, because of the traffic issues.
As distasteful as that is to me, I think it may be time to do it.
Let's hope gas price tumbles a little before that comes up for debate.
Well, you're right. And I don't know that the gas prices are going to go down anytime soon.
Yeah,
you're right about that, sir.
Yeah, it could be harsh.
You'll probably, you're going to have some gun measures also, I'm sure, like you were talking about in your earlier segment, although in Louisiana, a lot of the gun measures I hear that are coming are going to really be more for gun owners and gun rights.
Protection rights.
Protection rights versus trying to take your guns away. And we've always had a strong, history in our state on that. So I'm excited. There are going to be plenty of issues, and of course, y'all discussed also the LSU issue. That's really just a tragic and terrible situation, and that will be looked at more closely.
Well, there's going to be more to come on that. Franklin Foyle, as always, a pleasure. Let's do it again.
My pleasure. Thank you, Bill.
We'll try to
Thank you,
grab you
Kevin.
while y'all are in session, when it's really going on.
Love to come back. Thank you again.
Back in a moment to wrap it up. Stick around.
Thanks, guys.
Caught spiders? Premier Pest Services.
Hi, I am Dr. Farrell Frugier Jr., and I am a general dentist at Frugier Family Dentistry. I was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I went to Catholic High School, LSU, and LSU School of Dentistry in New Orleans, where I received my DDS degree in 1986. I always have and will continue to be committed to continuing my education, to invest in technology which makes the diagnosis and delivery of dentistry more thorough, more comfortable, and more aesthetically pleasing. In our practice, we are here to serve the patients. We want to improve their quality of life and to develop relationships with our patients. In dentistry, we have a chance to impact lives on a daily basis, not just by doing dentistry, but by getting to know them and being a part of their life. We also believe in giving back to our community. So every year, we give back to the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank, Toys for Tots, and Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center. Please stop by and visit our office. We would love to take care of you and your family.
From appetizers, pasta dishes, and entrees, La Cantea takes pride in preparing all the Italian cuisine we know you love. Enjoy live music every Thursday through Saturday from 6 to 9, happy hour weekdays from 3 to 6, and brunch on Sundays from 11 to 2, as well as dinner portion-sized lunch specials for under $10. Visit our website to view our menu and book a party or meeting in our large banquet room. Once you try La Contea, your Italian dining will change forever.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystoneCountryClub.com.
Hi, business owners. Phase 3. Woohoo! But do your customers know you're back? Well, that's where the Clarence Bugg Show and Pelican Broadcasting can help. Right now, we've got great rates on advertising packages to help you get the word out. Shoot me an email at bugsclarence@gmail.com. Or better yet, call me up. I'd love to talk with you. 225-485-6839. Let's get together and make Phase 3 the best it can possibly be.
Got termites? Get Premier Pest. PremierPestServices.com.
Glad to have you with us. Exiles TV, Bill Profit and Kevin Gallagher. Our thanks to State Representative Franklin Foyle. If you want to see that interview again, if maybe you think you missed something the first time, of course, we are replaying at 10 o'clock tonight. Make sure you tune in for that. We're talking about this shooting in Colorado. And it is horrendous on its face. But have you noticed how many of these major earth-shattering news, high-profile shootings they have had in Colorado in the last 20 years?
It's been quite a number, it seems.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you think of probably the highest profile of them all, Columbine, which was the same city, wasn't it? Columbine?
No, nearby, but Littleton, Colorado, which is more Denver.
Okay.
Yeah, Boulder is 45 miles from Denver, so somewhere in between.
Is there something in the air? Is it because the atmosphere's thin up there, or what's the deal?
Well, I have a feeling that Colorado has prided themselves on being a very, very tolerant, take you as you are kind of society for about 40 years. They're kind of like Portland with substance. And I really do think that you are allowed in Colorado to be uninterfered with if you're a wild-eyed Willie until such time as you pull a trigger.
Because you hurt somebody. Then once you hurt somebody, everybody wants to know why you were allowed to walk around like that.
Yeah. I mean, Dylan Klebold, and what was the other miscreant's name at Littleton?
Eric Harris.
Eric Harris. Eric Harris's mom knew he was making bombs in their basement.
She was terrified of her own child.
But she didn't do anything to stop it.
That's because she was terrified of her own child, much like the killer at the Sandy Hook school. His mother was scared to death of him, and rightly so, because he wound up murdering her.
But this would never happen. But let's just say Karen became a wild-eyed Willie, and I know Karen has weapons, and I know she knows how to use them. I could very easily absent myself from the house, call 911, and say, she's there now, and she's making bombs, and I don't have to be afraid of my kid, because there's 20 miles between he and I, and the cops are on the way.
Well, one thing that we didn't have at the time of the Columbine shooting was this little jewel right here. That if you're circumspect, you can send a message anywhere you need to and not make a sound.
Yeah.
And with the text message, your killer family member, your unbalanced family member could be right across the room from you, and you could be calling the cops on him.
But that kid was not holding his mother hostage.
Come pick this guy up and get him under.
She went to work every day. He was not holding her hostage. She didn't want to turn her kid in.
She didn't want to face the reality of what was going on. It's like if your kid's making bombs, he's eventually going to use one, don't you think?
Yeah.
If only for, look, I knew someone in my past that used to make pipe bombs simply because Jolly Roger was out there on the internet, and everybody knew how to do this kind of stuff. And he didn't hurt anybody, but he did blow up some private property, i.e. mailboxes. And, nobody got hurt, but he eventually used the bombs for destructive purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And his family knew about it, and they did nothing about it. Luckily, he grew out of that.
Well, and I mean, every one of these shootings in Colorado, and I'm not trying to pick on Colorado, but I mean, you can't ignore it. Every one of these shootings, after all the bodies are counted, after all the blood is cleaned off the floor, after the cops are being buried, because a lot of these have gotten cops as casualties too, then they say, well, everybody knew he was a little crazy, he had rage, he was off. Why
didn't anybody say anything?
Well, yeah, when they talk to Klebold and Harris's parents, it's like hook them up as accessories before the fact.
Well, our program is nearing an end, there's no easy answer here, Bill, but when these things happen, these tragedies, like, I'm thinking Parkland, Florida, I'm thinking, any of these mass shooting situations, it always makes me sad to see somebody jump on the gun control bandwagon. Because as we said on the top part of the show, the weapon is the individual.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. One of the worst mass killings in recent history was a guy who took a machete to people in a public market in India. And he managed to kill 15 people before somebody with a gun brought him down.
Yeah, somebody with murderous intent, if that is their driving force, they are going to find a way to kill.
And my opinion on gun control is this. You can take all the guns you want out of the hands of law-abiding citizens. The person that has evil on their mind with a gun is not going to be deterred in the least way possible.
Can always find a weapon.
If I had the money and the wherewithal and the contacts, I could get a gun out of the trunk of somebody's car in 25 minutes in this city.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this guy, Al Alawi, I believe. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name, and I really don't care to.
Let's just call him Al.
Yeah, I really don't care to. But, he was going to kill somebody. No doubt about it. And he wanted a high body count. And he just found that it was easier for him to do it with a firearm. But if a firearm was denied to him, he would have used a bomb, he would have used a knife, he would have used fire. He would have, because he was determined he was going to kill somebody.
Hey, quickly, before we go, our studio location here is the Bayou Smokehouse Old School Barbecue Restaurant, which opens tomorrow here in Baton Rouge on Coursey Boulevard. We thank them for their kindness.
Take care. Have a good day.
God bless.